He was a sweaty gamer who gets killed by a furry, but gets reincarnated to play a game where he unlocks his SS rank abilities and gets a girlfriend. Akira is a skilled gamer in modern-day Japan who loves playing games and sometimes gets a bit too competitive. One day, while waiting at a red light, a big van stops in front of him, and a huge bandaged-up man steps out. This man starts walking toward Akira and a countdown starts. Suddenly Truck-kun comes to his rescue and tries to reincarnate the brute, but the fatty does the unthinkable and ishikais Truck-kun to another world instead before running towards Akira with a massive punch. Luckily, Akira is quick on his feet. He ducks under the punch and avoids a ground smash. Thinking fast, he grabs a bike and pedals furiously through the sidewalk, with the big guy chasing him. Akira then decides to hide in an old building and sets up a trap to outsmart his pursuer. The gorilla enters the building, searching for Akira. However, as part of Akira's plan, the gorilla struggles to navigate the old building due to his fat ass, but to Akira's surprise, the gorilla jumps past a broken part, revealing unexpected quickness. The gorilla continues upstairs, breaking through a door and falling into a trap with a water tanker landing on his head. Akira thinks that he might have won this battle, but the brute emerges from the cloud of dust, bruised and battered, and as his head starts bleeding, he gets ready for one of his explosive jumps once again. But Akira predicts this move of his and grabs a metal pipe just as the brute jumps. Akira anticipates the move and uses a metal pipe to impale the gorilla, using his own weight against him, which leads to the fatty's death as he falls down to the ground. Remember kids, always fat shame other people into following a good diet so they can lose weight and bang your mom. In a brief moment of triumph, Akira thinks he has won, but a peculiar Catwoman appears behind him. Out of nowhere, the 5-second timer reappears and the furry shoots a massive hole through Akira. Collapsing to the ground and bleeding, Akira learns from the furry that he was in her hood and pieces out like a total gangster. Akira woke up in a strange room, packed with people who looked as confused as he felt. He glanced around and saw that his hands were locked in handcuffs. Up on a stage, a half-human, half-animal creature was talking. She told everyone they were basically ghosts to the outside world and they had to play in this game whether they liked it or not. They didn't have a choice. Akira thought it sounded a lot like the Squid Games when suddenly a big, mean-looking guy marched up to the stage and told the furry lady to buzz off. He said he was too smart to play her games. But the furry lady just turned her hand into a cannon and blasted him away, blowing a hole in his stomach. He died right there. Everyone freaked out and started looking for a way to escape. But the furry lady told them to chill out. She said she wasn't the only one with superpowers. According to her, all of them had been given special powers by some shady group who wanted to test them out on humans. They wanted to turn these powers into weapons to sell to the army. She explains to them that the handcuffs they're currently wearing will temporarily hold back their powers. However, there's a twist. After a quick 5-second countdown, the handcuffs magically turn green, granting them the freedom to unleash their unique abilities. Approaching Akira, she confidently mentions that she knows a lot about him and everyone else, casually calling each player by name and sharing some details she found out earlier. Curious Yuri, a blonde girl probably connected to Akira, asks why they got picked. The furry casually answers, saying it was totally random, surprising everyone. A girl named Yang suddenly shows up on stage, signaling it's time for everyone to head to their rooms for one-on-one battles. The furry stresses the importance of practicing in their rooms, and with a dramatic move, blows a hole in the wall to guide them on their way. Akira enters his room, where he finds everything he would need, and even his cuffs are unlocked so he can test his abilities out. He sits down on the table in front of him and finds a sheet of paper on which a bunch of instructions are given, such as the one-on-one battles will only end if one party gets unconscious, admits defeat, or gets killed in the process, and it also directs him towards a nearby envelope, inside of which their abilities are explained. Akira suddenly hears a loud bang from the side of the room and realizes that the other players have already started to try their abilities out, which scares him a little bit, but he opens up his card and is shocked to see the weird ability that he got. According to the information in his envelope, Akira's power is to change into whatever his enemies think it is. To be honest, he doesn't have any natural skills. But if his opponent thinks he does, an illusion appears, and he actually does have those skills. He walks into the classroom while still being handcuffed for the first battle. Inside, he sees a crackhead sitting at a desk and waving a stick. The bad guy looks at Akira and tells him that if he values his life, he should give up when the fight starts because his skills are very dangerous. Akira is not scared and challenges him, telling the villain to give it his best shot. Suddenly, a 5-second timer starts to run. When it runs out, their handcuffs are taken off, which marks the beginning of the battle. The bad guy charges at Akira quickly, and his stick changes into a sword, launching a barrage of attacks. Akira, on the other hand, dodges every attack with ease. The problem child keeps hitting, breaking desks and damaging the whole classroom. As a response, Akira moves quickly and skillfully, dodging the attacks and even throwing a desk at his opponent as a last resort. The delinquent easily cuts through the desk before moving ahead and cutting the chair in his hand to pieces, but Akira is able to push him away before throwing a bunch of desks at him and running out of the room like a bitch. The delinquent follows him into a room where Snoop Dogg seems to be hotboxing. He enters the room, but Akira immediately throws a candle at him before using a deodorant alongside a burner to create a makeshift flamethrower, which he uses on the delinquent, making him fall back. The delinquent, however, throws a piece of metal at the burner, breaking it before he gets up and tells Akira to give up as his bag of tricks is over, as he slashes through the boxes, finally finding Akira standing behind him. Turning around, he looks at Akira, who gives him a smile, and informs the offender that the only reason he isn't using his power is because it would be too risky. After a brief period of surprise, the delinquent tells Akira that he knows he is bluffing and uses his sword to attack him. Akira informs him, however, that he has already seen the furry use a similar ability while he is attacking. Akira's powers are ultimately activated when the offender subtly begins to believe that Akira may possess the hand cannon. He then simply obtains a hand cannon and uses it to shoot the offender, blasting him against the wall. Akira walks up to him and aims his cannon at him, saying that he should surrender, and when the delinquent realizes that there is no getting out of this, he ends up admitting his loss, which results in the first victory that Akira gets. He walks out of the room as his handcuffs get locked again and starts walking through a corridor back towards his room, where he meets Yuri, being escorted by a bunch of guards. Yuri had no intention of participating in this game while she was in her cell, so she didn't even glance at the envelope for a long time. However, when it was revealed that she would be fighting next, she checked it and discovered that her powers allowed her to greatly increase the range of her physical abilities. She chooses to test it on a wall, and to her astonishment, the wall develops a massive crater, shocking her even. She immediately tries it on the heavy metal gates that have been installed on her room, but no matter how hard she punches, she is unable to open them. So she lies down once more and reflects on her miserable life so far. She is finally given the opportunity to shine as she is led into the combat arena and sees an ugly, fat man who resembles a Reddit moderator standing across from her, only showing his underwear. She finds him creepy just by the way he looks at her, and it gets even creepier when he tells her that he can sense someone's emotions just by smelling them. The fatty launches himself at Yuri as soon as the 5-second timer goes off. Yuri leaps into the air and is stopped in his tracks by a swift kick to the face. But this doesn't stop the fat blob from pursuing her. Even with his mouth bleeding, he begins telling her that he likes the way she smells and that he knows exactly what she is thinking. Since he knows she's already uncomfortable with him, he decides to make things even more intense. He strips in front of her and makes her cover her face while he approaches and tries to punch her, but she manages to avoid his blow. But before she knows it, he throws her into a rear naked chokehold and demands that she concede the fight. It would have killed me, I swear to God, but his true special ability must be his foul, musty body odor. To shock the fatty, Yuri simply grabs his arm and breaks it in half, demonstrating her extreme mental strength and likely having a blocked nose. With a quick punch to the ground, she creates a screen of smoke, which she uses to appear behind him. She then unleashes a powerful 3-punch combo, finishing off the fat fool and winning the fight. After her battle is over, Akira is also called out as the second round of battles is about to begin, and he is escorted to a room filled with a bunch of people, including the delinquent Yuri, a monkey-looking guy, and a blue-haired dude. The announcement is made that the next battle would be a 5-on-5, and they have 5 hours to prepare for it. Akira enters the room and sits down among his peers as the monkey man suddenly starts speaking and decides to act as the host of their team. He tells them that now they are on the same team, so they should tell their abilities to each other, as then they would be able to synergize better with each other in the upcoming team battles. Everyone still seems to be pretty tense, but the ape seems to be an extroverted idiot who thinks that everyone should talk to everyone as it is fun. For the record, it isn't. Anyhow, he starts telling them about his powers first, and reveals that his actual ability is that he can turn any normal button into a rope. Wow, what an excellent ability. Maybe he can use it to end this joke by hanging. Hanging out with other people, I mean, because this is definitely not the group in which he can thrive. Anyways, this at least eases them out as they start introducing themselves and even their own abilities, which Akira finds to be a very interesting dynamic. The delinquent reveals that his ability is to convert a normal stick into a sword, which seems to be a very basic ability, but I am pretty sure that he is hiding something. When Yuri reveals to them that she can multiply her physical attributes by multiples of her own, Akira wonders if this limit only applies to her strength, or if she is also able to multiply her physical traits. When she sincerely responds that she is genuinely clueless, Akira asks her to leap as high as she possibly can. Rising to her feet, she launches herself into the air with such force that she nearly hit the ceiling, but she stopped herself with grace and fell back down. The man with the blue hair reveals that he has the ability to turn invincible for 2 seconds, during which nobody and nothing can harm him. However, he also declares that he will not use this ability because he is a man of virtues and feels that this ability was just given to him, not something he earned, claiming that it was never his ability in the first place. When Akira's turn finally comes, he understands that since everyone has shown off their abilities, he must also reveal his own. The issue is that his power is meaningless if others discover that he can only obtain the secret power when they mistakenly believe that he already possesses it. This could become problematic later in the game because they can easily defeat him without a fight since they already know that he lacks any special abilities and can defeat him without thinking. After giving it some thought, he finally responds by saying that, like the furry woman, his secret power is to turn his hand into a cannon which surprises the rest. Shortly as they are led into the ring for their 5-on-5 match, they all appear to be in awe of his incredible strength. As they arrive at a massive ring, they all scan their rivals. Just as they were deciding on a plan, the furry interrupts them over the microphone to say that each team will compete against another, with the winner of the round being the team who wins 3 times. This totally blows any plans either team may have had because they assumed it would be everyone against every enemy at once rather than one by one. They didn't have to show anyone their abilities, which means that only Akira benefits from it. He smiles to himself, knowing that he knows everyone's abilities, but no one knows what he is capable of. The first match is against a girl who is wrapped around the inside of a blanket because she is feeling very cold. But in today's world, clickbait is everything, so even if she gets hypothermia, she isn't going to wear many clothes. Anyway, Apeman decides to go first from Akira's team. At first, the woman tries to use her charm to get the ape to give up the ring, thinking that he has a monkey brain. However, the ape is a cunning bitch, as he begins by bluffing about his own abilities before telling her that he doesn't want to use it to destroy such a pretty young woman. Instead, he chooses to play his cards carefully and suggests a coin toss as a way to gamble. This is a great decision because he tells her that if it's heads, he leaves the ring and she wins. If it's tails, she leaves the ring and he wins. His ability is essentially worthless, and he can never prevail over her in a fair fight. This is an incredibly clever strategy because it changed the odds of winning from 0 to 50%. His teammates applaud as he tosses the coin into the air, but before it can reach his hands, a number of double-edged daggers that the thought apparently took out of her ass stab him in the back. She tells him that she wasn't excited about losing and apologizes for not waiting for the coin toss. Without any delay, the ape collapses onto the ground and expires instantly. Yuri is in complete shock at what she sees, and Akira and the delinquent are perplexed as to why the girl hardly moved her hands before a group of daggers materialized out of thin air, leaving them completely perplexed as to what her true powers are. As the next round begins, the medics enter the ring, check on the monkey man, and then declare him dead and dispose of his body. The Hulk and a nerd will square off in the upcoming match. The delinquent warns the Hulk to exercise caution after pointing out that the little nerd appears unfazed by the fact that she will be facing a large, obese monster in a short while. When Hulk steps into the ring ready to smash, the girl stays incredibly composed. The girl raises her hand as if she is in a class, frightening the Hulk, who goes on the defensive, thinking that she is going to attack. Instead, she concedes defeat, saying that she can't win, and hops off the ring like a cute little bunny. The 5-second countdown appears, and as soon as the counter runs out, the Hulk rushes towards the girl at full speed, banking on the hope that he can catch her when she isn't ready with her abilities. As Akira's team celebrates their free win, the Psycho Thought on the opposing side grabs her throat and begins to squeeze it as though she's trying to squeeze some lemonade out of lemons. Fortunately for the nerd though, one of the beanie girls enters the ring, assures the Thought that she will win, and stops the Thought from going completely crazy. Akira tells the offender to always use caution as he steps into the ring from her side. They both enter the ring, and after a 5-second count, each of them takes a position. The girl wearing the beanie pulls out a slingshot, and the delinquent pulls out his stick. She immediately shoots a shot at the delinquent, who has amazing reflexes and uses his stick to deflect the small ball to the side, which shocks the beaner. Surprisingly for everyone, the ball immediately turns into a giant sphere which falls on the ground, creating a small crater. The delinquent realizes that her plan is to use her marbles and create a big wrecking ball at the end that can crush him, but he tells her that he is not going to let that happen. He immediately converts his stick into a sword, surprising the girl as he starts running at her full force. She immediately shoots another marble at him, but he is able to deflect that as well, which makes her panic as she simply throws 3 marbles at once at him. The delinquent, however, dodges all of the marbles just like how I dodge my responsibilities. Before he can regain his balance though, the girl shoots another marble straight at him this time, but to everyone's surprise, he is able to cut through the entire giant sphere. This makes Akira realize that the delinquent's actual ability isn't converting a stick to a sword, but it is the ability to cut through any and everything that comes at him. This is a big shock to the beaner, who basically is outmatched skill-wise against this guy, as he tells her to forfeit as she cannot win against him. She, however, thinks about facing the Psycho Thought after her loss, and decides to fight back, and take out a bunch of marbles from her pockets, and throws all of them at once towards him. He is able to dodge every one of them pretty easily, but then realizes that all of the giant balls have not surrounded him, while the only chance he has is to run towards the girl herself, and remove this problem from the root. Now that he is trapped, she tells him that this is her last marble, and throws it at him, while he is still able to cut the giant ball into 2 pieces, but turns out that the beaner is more smart than we gave her credit for, as she lied to him about the last one being her only ball, and in reality, she had another one, which she tries to shoot at the delinquent. Everyone believed the fight was over, but all of a sudden, the slingshot strap broke, sending the marble flying in a different direction. She understands that he snapped his stick in half as soon as the enormous ball was in front of him, using one of the shattered pieces as a throwing knife that cut her slingshot. The criminal just approaches her and demands that she give up. She responds with a simple smile, telling him that he ought to have paid attention. Suddenly, a marble rolls in his direction and grows into a massive ball, smashing his smaller balls into tiny fragments. He collapses completely unconscious from them, and the beaner is pronounced the winner. As soon as he comes to, Akira, who is keeping an eye on him, informs him that he lost the match because he was overconfident and had the mental capacity of a raccoon that eats crayons. Following this, Akira approaches the stage as the next fight is announced, and a lanky NPC approaches from the opposite side, appearing extremely terrified. Though Akira's teammates warn him that if they don't win, they won't advance in this round and could even be killed, Akira is confident that the group forcing them to fight won't kill them on its own, and if they are injured, they will fight to save their lives so they can continue competing. He determines that determining the circumstances that fit his skills will be his primary goal for the day. As he steps onto the ring, he is reminded of the note inside the envelope, which claimed that his abilities were whatever the other person believed them to be. He doesn't know who is regarded as the other person, which is the problem with that statement. He knows his teammates view him as a cannon hand, so he glances at them all first. However, nothing changes, and he comes to the realization that they are not the other person. Looking at the NPC, who appears lost and afraid, Akira decides to try again. Turning around right away, he tells the delinquent that his arrogance may cause them to lose the battle and implies that he views him as an enemy. The offender gets scared and instantly turns his hand into a cannon. He shoots next to him, frightening the living daylights out of him, then says it was all in jest. Knowing that he and his team now believe Akira possesses the cannon ability, he turns back to face the NPC. He looks at every member outside the ring first, but nothing changes. Finally, he turns to face the NPC, at which point his hand instantly turns into a cannon. He fires at the NPC to end the fight right away, but the NPC ducks down in terror and touches the ground, totally negating his attack and taking the cannon out of his hand. He fires his cannon at the NPC once more, but it is blocked once more and his cannon vanishes. After shooting a few times, Akira knows that this isn't how he's going to win, so he tosses his shoe at him before stepping out from behind and telling him to stop and raise his hands. When Akira realizes that he can stop the approaching magic attacks by touching the ground while crouching, the NPC follows orders. As soon as Akira is declared the winner, the NPC bows out. The Hulk remarks that the NPC appeared to have a very pointless skill as he steps down from the ring. But Akira informs him that the skill was actually rather good, and that a man like Hulk could have easily defeated Akira in a matter of seconds if he had had it. This was a really pleasant exchange because it made Akira realize that in order for him to be effective, the other person needed to understand that they were in a direct conflict with him. Regardless, Yuri is called to the stage for the tiebreaker match, and her opponent approaches the ring cautiously. The opponent is revealed to be a young man who appears to know Yuri, and has green hair and extremely feminine features. Yuri barely got a chance to take a look at her opponent before she erupted into a fury, screaming that she would kill the man because he was stalking her and had threatened to kill herself. Yuri tried to intervene when he threatened to do so, but she grabbed her and fled the building. Her teammates begin to hold her back as she frantically tries to get past them and go after the stalker, telling them to back off because he is the only reason she is stuck here. They all back off after witnessing her rage as she marches to the ring and holds her head high while the stalker informs her that he has already planned their marriage. What a stud! But Yuri isn't messing around. She threatens to beat the living daylights out of the stalker. When the 5 seconds are up, Yuri charges the stalker and gives him a gut-wrenching punch to the solar plexus, sending him flying out of the ring and into the wall. She knocks him out right away, winning the match for her team. Once more, the furry emerges in the center of the ring to inform the teams that they will move on to the next round. They then put blindfolds over their eyes and lead each team through a separate gate. The furry takes off their blindfolds and informs them that they will once more be splitting up into solo players and that each of them must decide how to advance. They all say their goodbyes to one another and set out on their journey once more. Akira goes in his own room and finds a smartphone laying on the shelf. He immediately picks it up and starts looking through TikToks like a total buffoon when the voice announces that he needs to move his ass to the next ground and tells him that he has 30 minutes to eliminate as many people as possible in the Block A, which will give him a bunch of points. He comes out of the gate into a completely forest-like area with cameras installed everywhere and a sign denoting that this is the Block A. He immediately starts running inside of the forest to try and eliminate as many people as possible, but suddenly a blondie jumps out of the tree and stands in front of him, telling him that he was waiting for the new players. Akira gets immediately alert and was about to start fighting when the blondie tells him that he doesn't want to fight him and tells him that he is only here to recruit him. A confused Akira waits for what he was trying to say when suddenly from the forest, Yuri comes out running, being chased by 4 guys wearing a weird red tracksuit. She spots Akira and immediately stands behind him, claiming that these idiots were chasing her for no reason. Blondie seems to know the people in the red tracksuit who seems to be of a certain gang and tells them that he will not let them take these new players away. The red tracksuit weirdos do some horse crap before Blondie has had enough and he takes out his stick, which immediately becomes a bow, which can shoot infinite arrows. One of the members who wears geek glasses walks up and transforms his hand into a cannon, surprising every single one of them, especially Akira and Yuri. As soon as Yuri asks Akira how this geek can have the same abilities, the Red Gang begins to believe that Akira also possesses the cannon hand ability. Taking advantage of the situation, he transforms his hands into a cannon and fires it at the nerds. The shot lands squarely in front of them, and before they can even consider pursuing, Blondie blocks their path with a barrage of arrows fired from his bow. As the geek pulls out his cannon and fires it at our heroes, Akira dodges the bullet and fires back at them. When the two shots collide, there is a massive explosion that blows the red gang away and causes Akira and the others to disappear into the smoke. The blondie tells them that there are two large teams here and that the third round is played in factions after they flee from the scene. He is a member of the green team and the other is the red team, with whom they recently had an encounter. He expresses gratitude to them for saving his life and assures them that they need not be concerned because he will not attempt to coerce them into joining their side. But Akira informs him that he pulled out his bow without thinking to stand up for them, so they would be happy to meet his team and make their own judgment. He leads them to a sizable compound that is protected by a metal gate. As he lets them all in and says hello to the gatekeeper, Akira and Yuri are both taken aback by what they see inside the compound. Young men are on duty as guards, women are doing the expected housework and laundry, and even elderly people are farming. The fact that this appears to be a whole village thrills them both. Abruptly, a small girl carrying a baby rushes towards Blondie. Blondie tells Akira that the baby's mother was already pregnant when the child was born, and that the baby was delivered inside of this very compound when he notices that the baby is not wearing a handcuff. Since she is currently employed, he guarantees that they will meet her. Then he leads them into a warehouse where several tables are prepared. Telling them to wait, he enters a room where they will meet the group leader. Akira informs Yuri that he believes he will join this team because, given the size of the compound and the fact that even elderly and feeble women are permitted to join, it is obvious that the other members must also be extraordinarily strong, because that is the only way they can defend themselves. After some time, Blondie emerges and leads the two of them into a room where they are met by an elderly man named Shira. Shira gives them a warm greeting and expresses gratitude for saving Blondie's life. He assures them that as long as they stay inside these compounds, they are safe over here and won't have to worry about any more attacks. Subsequently, he focuses on Akira and inquires about the veracity of his cannon ability. Akira deceives them by pretending to possess this ability. The leader is pleased and remarks that they don't have many people with such potent offensive skills. The blondie turns to face Yuri, who answers that she can multiply her physical attributes by several times when the blondie asks what her ability is. The leader is genuinely shocked by this and spills his coffee, while Blondie is incredulously shocked. He informs them that while her ability is rated as a ++, the cannon ability is rated as an extremely strong ability with a rank of a. Shira congratulates Blondie for bringing these people, saying that now that the entire battle can be turned, both she and the blondie seem overjoyed to have such strong new recruits. He walks them through the operation of this new round. He claims that in order to gain points which appear on their smartphones, they must complete quests and eliminate other players. Once they have 1,000 points, they can advance to the next level. Additionally, they can use the points to purchase goods and services like food and medication from their smartphone. Initially, teams consisted of 2 to 4 members in order to be more mobile and effective. However, one day, some very powerful players showed up, and they began to form teams that grew to be extremely large. The issue started when the team leaders thought they didn't really need to advance to the next level because they didn't know what would be on there. As a result, they started robbing players of their more powerful abilities and using them as slaves to carry out their orders. He claimed that the 4 men who attempted to capture Yuri also had plans to abduct her. Shira informs them that the green team was formed in order to keep the weaker players safe from kidnapping and that they have been fighting the red team ever since. Additionally, he informs them of another group known as the blue team, whose intentions are unknown and who have vowed to remain impartial by taking no sides and acting independently. He informs them that they must find players who are strong enough to fight because they will face the red team sooner rather than later. While Akira seems to be considering it, Yuri, who appears to be perplexed by the red team's brutality, decides right away that she will fight against them. Akira wants to join this team, but only if it is absolutely necessary. He approaches the elderly man, tells him he can make choices, and raises his hands to his face. Shira informs him that he is already at odds with the red team and that he doesn't really have an option. Everyone starts to fear that Akira is going to shoot the leader, but he orders them to remain where they are because Akira will shoot him right away if they move. To Akira's surprise, though, the cannon isn't just popping out of his hands. This worries me because it could indicate that Shira either doesn't think Akira actually owned the cannon in the first place, or that he has some sort of ability that prevents him from using his abilities. Again, Yuri orders Akira to put down his hand right away, but just then, the cannon materializes out of his hand. Akira takes the shot without hesitation as the leader challenges him to shoot, staring him in the eye. The smoke clears, and to everyone's surprise, Shira sits there unharmed and asks Akira whether he passes the test. Akira smiles at him and tells him that he will be happy to join his team. Yuri immediately grabs Akira by the throat, asking him why he was pulling such stunts, but Shira tells her that he just wanted to see whether the green team had any chance against the red team, and that's why he chose to shoot, so he can figure out how strong the leader of this group is. He tells them that thankfully, his abilities can even block a cannon shot at point-blank range, which is why he survived. Suddenly, a woman enters the room and tells Shira that today there is a lot of new recruits arriving, which is technically good for the team, but they don't have enough space to house them all. Akira volunteers to share a room with Yuri so that there is not a lot of space wasted. This is the dream of every incel alive. They go into the same room where Akira grabs a piece of paper and tells Yuri to sit beside her as he wants to tell her something. He quickly writes something on the paper and hands it over to Yuri, telling her not to say it out loud and just read it and believe it. Yuri grabs the piece of paper, which says that Akira's real ability is telepathy. He grabs her by the shoulder and tells her to focus and believe in him, and as soon as she actually believes about his abilities, he starts talking to her telepathically, and even she can talk back to him. He tells her that he doesn't want them to talk out loud, because there is a huge possibility that the room has been bugged. Yuri asks him why would that be the case, and he replies that they are very strong individuals, and the leader will make sure that he can totally trust us before laxing the security, but for now, they should believe that all of their actions are being monitored. He tells her to keep his secret ability safe, and once he has gained confidence that Yuri has a strong character and a strong motive to win, which is to go back home to her mother and her half-sister, he ends up revealing his actual ability and tells her that he wants to finish this game, so he can have a rematch with the furry and defeat her. Suddenly, their phones ring up and the furry comes to their screen like an influencer who is depressed, but shows that his life is all put together and tells them that she has a quest for them. The following morning, in order to gain more points, they must all gather close to some ruins where they will engage in combat with several ghouls. In order to maximize their productivity, Shira gathers his team in front of the gates the following morning and splits them up into smaller groups, keeping Yuri and Akira together. They all walk through the forest as Yuri and Akira have telepathic conversations. He understands that Yuri is the biggest threat to him now that he has revealed his true abilities to her because she can kill him whenever he pleases, and he has essentially given his own life to her in order to obtain the upper hand in these conflicts. When they eventually arrive at the ruins, they see the furry sitting atop the rocks, greeting them and advising them to prepare for a slew of adversaries. She also tells them that they can earn a lot of points all at once because every enemy they kill is worth 30 points. Abruptly, several computer-generated imagery zombie mummies materialize and advance in their direction. It dawns on Akira that this is the same adversary who once assaulted him while he was a student. She also informs them that the only restriction on this quest is that they are not allowed to attack anyone else. The zombies charge at them as the fight begins. But Shira is a skilled tactician who has thought of everything. He absorbs the most of the first zombie's damage without even flinching, while another member of the group grabs and subdues the creature, and the last girl, brandishing a sword, chops off the zombie's head. Shira informs them that he and other similar players are the tank, binders are those who can trap opponents, and slayers are those who possess strong offensive skills. They can quickly and easily defeat all of these monsters if they cooperate in this way. A zombie tries to attack Akira during the all-out battle, but he is easily blasted away by his cannon. He keeps firing his cannon at the monsters as they fight all around them, showcasing a variety of abilities like teleportation and voodoo magic. But all of a sudden, they are staring out over the edge, where they see a muscular man with an odd haircut approach with a few other men. The monster tries to attack him, but the man just punches the man into oblivion. They are the leaders of the red team, Shira informs them. When Yuri informs him that they are unable to attack us due to the rule, Shira responds that they are merely interested in learning about our capabilities at this time and orders his team to disperse. But the red team has other ideas. They bring the people they have kidnapped and turned into slaves, forcing them to run in front of the zombies with force. As soon as the people start being attacked and killed, Shira begins to doubt himself. Just as Yuri and Akira realize that the nerd they saw in the second round is about to be attacked, they rush over to her and Yuri kicks the monster away while Akira grabs her. However, Furry starts acting like a real all of a sudden, unleashing a massive monster on them. The red team forces several kidnapped individuals to flee towards the monster, as it kills numerous other zombies and advances towards the green team. In an attempt to protect the innocent by deflecting the punch, one of the green team members is knocked out. Akira fires at the creature, but it is ineffective, and the creature punches him into a tree. Just as the monster was about to punch the living daylight out of him, Shira charges forward, telling Akira to flee and save the others while he diverts the monster's attention. Shira is compelled to absorb the monster's blows, but Akira does as he says. The red team is keeping a close eye on this because they want to know Shira's true ability. Eventually, he is forced to reveal that he can absorb a lot of damage and reflect it back at will onto the enemy. After gathering more attack power, Shira punches the monster in the stomach and blows a hole through him. As his teammates come running toward him, relieved that the monster is dead and that he is still alive, he also sustains injuries in the process. To their amazement though, the monster just gets up, consumes the other zombies to regain his health, and moves back towards Shira. Nobody is sure how they will ever be able to defeat a monster of this caliber. The monster delivers multiple blows to Shira, but Yuri can no longer stand to watch this massacre, so she attempts to rescue him, but the others hold her back, reminding her that she's not in a Marvel movie, but being a typical Gen Z teenager, she ignores their advice and leaps up in the air, executing a powerful kick to the monster's face. Of course, the monster launches another attack towards them, so Yuri quickly pushes Shira out of the way. After Akira's cannon briefly saves them, he tells Yuri that he has a plan, but to share it with her, they have to keep communicating using telepathy. Because Shira's eyes are keenly watching them, Akira and Yuri maintain a defensive position against the monster's attacks. So he decides to lure the monster towards a hidden place in order to activate his plan with Yuri without anyone figuring out his secret. When they finally drag the monster out of sight, Akira corners himself against a wall, creating a situation where he has nowhere to escape from the monster. As it lands a punch on Akira, he communicates telepathically with Yuri. The monster leaves a dent in the wall, so everyone believes that Akira has been crushed and is now resting with his ancestors. However, he suddenly emerges out of thin air and places his cannon directly in the monster's mouth. Akira blasts the cannon, and the monster falls to the ground. Then Yuri runs to embrace him, feeling relieved that he survived his risky plan. Seconds later, however, this monster surprisingly rises again like a mummy with vampire genes and attempts to finish off the two, but the mammoth-sized leader of the red team, Ugami, intervenes miraculously, delivering a punch that instantly beheads the monster. He compliments their tactical way of handling the monster and breaks out in hysterical laughter like a total freak, questioning how Akira survived the monster's punch, because there was no way he survived so easily. Infuriated by his laughter, Yuri tells him to shut the hell up because he wasted innocent lives for plainly stupid reasons. I would think she knows better than to attack this human version of Godzilla, but she lets her impulsive dumbness take over and kicks Ugami. As expected, he grabs onto her leg, suspending her in the air before finally flinging her away. Ugami challenges them to a fight, 2 against 1, making it 3 if Shira agrees to be a part of it, but the furry gets an idea and comes up with another one of her devilish challenges. She takes advantage of the tensions rising between them and creates a full-blown competition between the green and red teams where they go on a quest to steal the team leader's interface and connect it to their own devices, and whichever team successfully does that emerges as the winner of the game. Furry adds that points will be awarded for every enemy they hunt down, and she spices up the game by rendering the team leader powerless and vulnerable to anyone, using the cuffs to seal their special abilities. One of the top goons of the red team, Kiro, says he's uninterested in playing such a boring game because, after all, old man Shira would be a piece of cake to deal with. I thought Furry was heartless until this guy suggests an evil twist to the game, where the winning team gets to kill all other members of the losing team. As expected, the Furry permits this new twist, but Shira speaks up, saying they have innocent mothers and children on their team, and it would be unfair to have them killed in cold blood. But she says he should shut up and accept the new conditions, otherwise they will be forced to fight the red team while still nursing their fresh injuries. After explaining the terms, Furry gives them 7 days to go and prepare for their quest. As the green team returns to their camp, so many are wounded and need to be attended to. Shira returns with some injuries of his own, but Blondie is glad to see that he survived the attack, thanks to Akira and Yuri. The old man calls for a private meeting with Akira and asks him to reveal his true abilities because after watching his fight with the monster, he figured that there was a special ability that enabled Akira to escape the monster's deadly punch. Well, now that his ass is busted, Akira confesses that the cannon hand is not his actual ability, but he can't reveal his real ability for personal reasons. He, however, assures Shira that he will crush the red team with his special ability. Later, Hulk from Akira's first team rescues a member of the green team from one of the jerks on the red team. When he takes her back to her camp, the green team members surround him and are totally going to beat shit out of him, but after the girl explains that he actually saved her, Blondie asks him to introduce himself. Yuri and Akira immediately identify with him and convince the others that, despite his hulking body size, he's actually a nice guy. Shira tells him to feel at home, although that may only last for a week because the red team will definitely whoop their ass in the upcoming competition. However, this quest also presents the green team with an opportunity to seal Ugami's ability because he is one hell of an impossible person to defeat, and no one has successfully done so in the history of their games. After Shira's speech to the team, the nerd he rescued from the red team walks up to him and introduces herself as Ringo. Apparently, she knows him from a game they used to play while they were still living their normal lives. Ringo thanks him for saving her, but has more to discuss with him, so she begins to shake like a little puppy. Finally gathering confidence, she asks Akira what his real power is. Asking this question also poses a risk for her because her survival depends on others not knowing her real ability, which is the ability to copy a tenth of other people's powers. Ringo discloses that she knows Hulk's ability, so he quickly draws her into his room to prevent her from spilling more than she should. In an intimidating manner, Akira asks her what she really wants with his abilities, so she proposes that they both work as partners since their special abilities are dependent upon having others around. Akira initially doesn't trust this nerd, but realizes how this relationship could be beneficial to him after finding out that she knows the abilities of the red team's members because she was one of their prisoners. After their conversation, the nerd leaves and Yuri later finds it difficult to sleep while trying to figure out what the two were up to, locked up in a room. Meanwhile, at the red camp, Kuro mobilizes a bunch of creeps to represent the red team in the upcoming quest. Among these are a blue-haired creep called Renka, a grandpa skateboarder named Kamui, and a semi-bald samurai named Rindu, who looks so scary that even his hairline ran away. While he's still addressing them, the jerk from earlier who attacked a member of the green team rushes to deliver a message to Kuro. It turns out that there's a snitch in the green team that noticed something off about Akira's fight with the monster, so the spy says that Kuro should watch out for Akira. Afterwards, Kuro meets Ugami and tells him that the battle plans have changed because he has now confirmed that Akira's cannon hand is just a decoy from his actual ability. Later, Akira brings Yuri to a quiet location where they discuss new strategies to use against their rivals before they later set out for a negotiation with the blue team. After nearly having his secret revealed during the teleportation tactic they deployed to defeat the monster, Akira resolves not to be foolish again and plans on using less obvious means in the next mission. He initially tries to use Yuri's quintupling ability, but his body simply cannot manage it. He feels as though he is a kid operating a Formula 1 race vehicle, which suggests that Yuri must have wild animal instincts in order for her little body to be capable of using those powers. Yuri gives him some lessons on how to control his body, and afterwards he hides behind a tree and springs up another idea. Akira tells Yuri to envision him transforming into anyone she knows. When Yuri is finished, Akira emerges as an identical replica of Ringo. When he later learns that Yuri saw him discussing with Ringo, he explains the reason for their meeting, but does not disclose Ringo's true ability because he promised her not to tell anyone, not even Yuri. However, Akira can only trust Yuri, so he tells her to keep an eye on Ringo and give him feedback. Later, they meet up with some members of the blue team consisting of a smallish guy called Omoto and some other scary-looking freaks. Akira tells them that he wishes to recruit some members of their team to join the green team for the upcoming quest. But they outrightly reject his proposal, saying that they're not interested in participating in any petty war. However, Akira offers to pay 200 points to each participant as an incentive and 500 points to anyone who succeeds in stealing the interface from the red team's leader. Actually, the blue team is kinda broke, so Akira's tempting offer whets their appetite because the number of points he's offering can only be gotten if they participate in a lot of dangerous quests. However, Omoto is a smarty pants, so he tells Akira that the offer can only be useful to them if the green team wins, but since they appear to be a bunch of hopeless losers, he offers instead to give him some of his members in exchange for Yuri. Firmly, Akira declines the offer, saying that Yuri is more valuable than 20 of her members combined. He counters it with an offer that Omoto should participate in the war instead, because after hearing about his achievements, he might be the only one worthy enough to trade places with Yuri. After proving that he isn't exactly desperate for their help, Omoto agrees to convey his message to the rest of her members, but refuses to take part in it herself. However, before they leave, Omoto tells him that the result of the battle is quite predictable and will not change, no matter how hard he tries. When they leave, the delinquent walks up to Akira and Yuri, and becomes upset when he finds out that they didn't notice him throughout. He tells Akira that he's going to join the red team and fight against him to get revenge for their first fight, but Akira treats him like a whining infant and pushes him aside. Yuri and Akira return to Green Camp, and the welfare unit of the green team offers to participate in the battle to provide medical support to the fighters. Shira urges Akira to let them participate, saying that they won't be a burden. Other members also offer to participate in the fight, including Hulk from the blue team and the lady with a baby. Speaking of her, Blondie apparently has been in love with her and is about to confess his feelings, when his dumb friends interrupt them and spoil his show. The day of the quest finally arrives, and they are taken to a region surrounded by 5 towers. They receive some instructions on the interface from the furry, with specific rules to guide them. The players get 1 point for stealing interfaces from members of the opposing team, which are linked to the cuffs on their hands. If the interfaces get stolen up to a distance of 3 meters, the cuffs will activate and they will lose their abilities. They get up to 10 points if they are able to place their interface on any of the 5 towers, and they can choose to trade their points in exchange for certain favors from the furry. The referee tells each team to register their team king, and the battle is declared open. Shira announces to his team members that their first goal is to secure at least 3 towers, so they can gather enough points to seal the power of Ugami, the wild card, and the king of the red team. Soon after, the game begins and the green team sets out in groups. Shira, being the king of the green team, stays behind and gives instructions from their resting point, and in no time, the Blondie's group secures their first tower. The green team seems to have numbers on their side compared to the red team, but the red team has more dangerous players. We're talking quality over quantity. Ugami is both the king of the red team and their most valuable player, while Yuri is the green team's wild card. The dynamics of the game depend on when the wild card will be pulled out. Another group is about to secure the green team's second tower, but Ugami suddenly shows up from nowhere and attacks 2 of the guys, leaving the baby mama to deal with the big guy. To buy time for the other allies, she begins to swing a very heavy sword that is almost twice her size, as if she's just swinging a feather. Ugami grabs onto the sword, giving her the opportunity to impose the entire weight of the sword on him. Her special ability turns out to be that she can control the weight of a sword. Miki needs as light as a feather was heavy as Ugami. It seems to be working until the big guy snaps her sword and punches her into the wall, and from that moment, it seems the fate of the green team has been decided by the devil, and the battlefield turns red. One by one, the members of the red team reveal themselves and slaughter any member of the opposite team they come across. Yet, they're all looking for 2 people, Akira and Yuri. Later, Akira meets up with the crazy thought, and it looks like they're both about to get physical. And by that I mean it seems they're about to fight, you twisted piece of shit. However, it turns out to be a simple transaction where Akira collects something from her. But being the retard she is, the lady offers to get him laid later that night. Trust our guy to keep his head in the game and shrugs her off, turning straight to business. Immediately though, she calls one of her teammates to inform them about his location. After hearing of the attack from Ugami at one of the towers, some members of the green team went to rescue the baby mama. On the other hand, Hulk has been watching out for red team members after the wind magic girl told him that she was sensing someone's presence. He ends up finding a crazy-looking bartender with blood stains all over his shirt who boldly admits that he murdered the other members of his group. Angry, Hulk rushed him and squeezes his neck with one hand like he's pressing lemons. Immediately, Hulk notices that the cuff on his hand gradually starts shrinking and realizes that this is the special ability of the bartender. Within seconds, Hulk sees a red string tied around his wrist, and with a command from the weirdo, his hand gets severed and falls off. The sneaky piece of shit begins to boast about how Ugami's attack was a trap was set to lure the other members of the green team, meaning that the match is basically over. However, Hulk told the freak to shut the hell up, because the fight has only begun. It seems Hulk is right, because just when Ugami is about to finish up the baby mama, Yuri shows up in the nick of time and saves her, furious that he would try killing Asuka, despite the fact that she's a mother. She furiously moves to kick Ugami, but he blocks all her attacks, but heeding to Akira's advice, she lands a blow on his face, using her agility as an advantage, because strength alone may not work against Ugami. She supplements the attack with another blow that sends him to the ground, although he gets up immediately, surprised by her skillful tactics. He then communicates with Kiro, who says it's now time for them to switch things up and surprise the green team members. Meanwhile, Ringo and Shira are able to fish out a spy amongst the green team members, so they bind him to a tree. The idiot tells Ringo that they should give up because the red team is going to deal with them. However, Ringo tells him she believes the green team stands a chance of winning because she knows Akira to be an excellent gamer. Their little chit-chat makes the snitch a little comfortable with Ringo, so he agreed to reveal some things to her, but first of all he's thirsty. When she returns with a glass of water, she finds that he has been stabbed. Then suddenly Shira gets intel that the red team members are headed their way. With this, they figure out that there's another spy amongst them, which unknown to them is the fat old lady in the medical team. Akira, on the other hand, has been forced to re-strategize after Yuri ran off to rescue Asuka. Before she left, he tried convincing her to stay back because he needed her in order to defeat Kiro, the brain behind the red team's movements, but trusts teenage girls and allowing their emotions to get in the way, she became upset and said he only wanted to use her. With this, she ran off and left him stranded. However, Akira, being who he is, already had a backup plan for that, but on his way to execute his plan, he is intercepted by the delinquent. To be honest, this is not the time for a duel with the annoying bastard, but he begins to attack Akira with multiple knives, who defends himself with his cannon hand. Just when Akira has sustained multiple injuries, our scary samurai with the hopeless hairline descends from the tree, but surprisingly, the delinquent tells Akira to move out of the way, and he miraculously misses getting chopped off. The samurai attempts to fight Akira, but the delinquent tells him to back off because no one gets in the way of their duel. He calls for a truce and tells Akira to step aside while he handles the samurai. So here's the thing, after Akira's meeting with the Thought, she called the samurai to inform him of Akira's location, and initially his fighting partner was supposed to be Yuri, but since he now has to activate Plan B, he'll be using the delinquent as his partner. Let's give it to this guy, his ick is off the charts, and it's quite unfortunate that an anime character has a brighter future than you. Back to their fight, the bald samurai goes crazy with his knives and almost chops their heads off, but they dodge his blades and seek cover. Akira reveals to the delinquent that the crazy samurai possesses the same ability as he does, so they hatch a plan and move to attack him. The delinquent spars with the samurai for a while, then after a while Akira blasts his cannon towards the man, but the samurai slashes through the blast, sending it back to Akira and throwing him on the ground with multiple injuries. This bald samurai believes he has won the fight, but misses an important detail. Akira's blast actually released some splinters, and using the delinquent's ability to turn anything into a knife, he sends them flying towards the samurai with one kick, unaliving him on the spot. Somewhere in the camp, the crazy Barbie Renka has used a handful of mini choppers to terminate some of the green team members. As a last resort, our not-so-holy nun who's about to meet her lord brings out her voodoo doll and throws it at Renka, causing her neck to twist as she falls to the ground. However, this crazy creep gets back up on her feet and repositions her neck, moving to slash the nun with her sword and finish her off. But our nun apparently has guardian angels, so she is saved by the sudden appearance of Psycho Thought. The Thought comments on Renka's invincibility, and this turns her attention towards the Thought. We know she never really liked the Thought, probably because the Thought is hotter than she is. Renka threatens to kill the Thought and blame it on the green team, but the Thought quickly turns her hand into a knife, and when Renka rushes at her, mini knives appear from her legs as well. Renka directs her mini choppers towards the thought, but she swiftly escapes the attacks. However, she eventually sustains some injuries and begins to bleed, but she surprisingly turns droplets of her blood into blades, which she throws at Renka and the choppers. Surprisingly, this girl continues to speak even after being stabbed, but the thought immediately straps her to a tree. Then she runs and discovers a little boy in front of a cart. She stabs the cart and Renka immediately falls because she was actually just a puppet like the choppers and tanks, but was being controlled by the coward in the cart. The little boy, on the other hand, has the ability to turn toys into real-life objects and is being used as a slave, but the thought doesn't give a shit about his pitiful story, so she unalives him with her blade. Turns out that this smart-ass made a deal with Akira to use her as a spy for the green team, thereby giving her immunity from the death penalty if the red team loses. Meaning that this thought is going to survive no matter what team wins. Meanwhile, Hulk and the creepy bartender are still at it, and this purple-haired weirdo seems to have mastered his rope stuff, slicing through Hulk's hands and feet. He mocks Hulk for being big for nothing and having no useful ability of his own, whereas Hulk can't imagine just how many people this freak must have killed to master an ability that wasn't originally his. The bartender says he is simply grabbing the opportunity to better his life because he used to be a worthless, broke-ass loser who has now found heaven. But we know this piece of shit will end up in hell after all. He swiftly loops Hulk's neck with his string and attempts to slice the neck with it, but the Wind Girl quickly rushes and pushes him to the ground. This annoys the bartender, so he grabs a knife and throws it towards her, but Hulk steps in and gets stabbed instead. Immediately, his mind goes down memory lane, and he remembers playing games with his older brother, whom he considered to be invincible. Unfortunately, they were involved in a vehicle accident, and his younger brother passed away, but his spirit promised to always be with Hulk. The spirit of Hulk's older brother appears to him and tells him he understands that he didn't use the organization's freely giving ability because he didn't want to disappoint his brother, but he now had a reason to because he had someone to protect. Suddenly, Hulk's body radiates brightly, and heavy armor suddenly appears on him. This shocks the big-mouthed bartender and the Wind Girl, who never knew that he possessed such powerful ability. Hulk effortlessly breaks the bartender's strings, and using his 2 seconds of invincibility, he lifts the bartender by his neck like he's lifting a teddy bear and squeezes the life out of him. Meanwhile, our dearest Blondie has been facing the grandpa skateboarder, and he has suffered enough in his hands to the point that he basically looks like a zombie. Yet Blondie keeps fighting on as he remembers that in his past life, he was a worthless and selfish loser who only watched out for himself, but after joining the green team, he found a new sense of purpose and direction in life. Knowing he might not make it, he begins to scream Akira's name like a chicken, and it seems the heavens have answered his prayer as Akira suddenly appears, telling him to shut the heck up and be a freaking man. Akira tells him that although Yuri went to rescue Asuka, she still has to fight against Ugami, so he will have to be the one to rescue Asuka. Also, Akira says that he will be leaving the green team after this game because he'll be moving to the next program, so the future of the green team rests heavily on Blondie. Blondie runs to save Asuka, leaving Akira to face Gramps. He picks up a stone and throws it toward him, but the grandpa vaporizes the stone, making Akira realize that his ability is chemical in nature. As he approaches Akira, he reveals that Kiro knows about his real ability, which is that he possesses multiple abilities. As the old man rushes towards him, Akira brings out the samurai's sword, leaving the old man to believe that Akira's ability allows him to copy those of others. Before Grandpa can do anything, the sword slashes through his chest, and he drops to the ground. Akira quickly locks the Grandpa's interface on his device and balls out. Back at the green camp, the old medic sneaks up on Shira with a cannon blast. But it seems like he already anticipated the attack, so he just absorbs it, as he reveals that he knew she was a snitch, but he didn't want to believe it. And I guess the moral lesson here is that you shouldn't give snitches a second chance. Shira tries to convince her to drop the cannon, but she shockingly reveals that Kiro and Ugami are her children. Before anyone can stop her, she picks up the baby and threatens to shoot him if Shira doesn't toss his interface and seal his ability. After a countdown, Shira tosses his interface and his ability gets sealed. The old hag then points her cannon toward him and kisses him with a blast. She tells Kiro that she has killed Shira, saying that it is all over now, but Ringo confronts her, saying that she won't let her get away with the child and waste the sacrifices her teammates have made. The old hag blasts Ringo, who goes into hiding and becomes fidgety, but she remembers Akira's words of encouragement and steps up to face the old woman. Ringo copies the old hag's ability, revealing a much smaller cannon. But because it is a tenth of the woman's cannon, it fires at a faster speed, so she tells the old hag to drop the baby in a safe place as they go all out against each other. Unfortunately, Ringo totally sucks at using the cannon, and she keeps misfiring, causing unnecessary smoke, which the woman uses to her advantage, sneaking behind Ringo and blasting her nerdy glasses away. The poor girl loses her confidence and begins to tremble instead of shooting at the stupid old woman. So the evil old witch then uses her cannon hand, and she brutally hits Ringo's face multiple times until she's too weak to move. The old lady says that she came from a terrible background and could not provide for her boys, so now that she has the opportunity to protect them and give them a brand new start, she wouldn't hesitate in doing that and will also extend her agenda to the baby as she nurtures him. However, Ringo sees through her bullshit and diverts her attention with a pile of rocks she blasted away and tricks her into believing that the baby was underneath the rubble. She then shows the old hag that she's actually with the baby, as she tells the old lady to toss her interface away if she doesn't want to get blasted in the face. The old hag complies, but as soon as Ringo turns her back, the woman raises a piece of rock and attempts to throw it at Ringo. However, the girl isn't surprised that the woman would do something that crazy, so she quickly blasts a pile of rocks that fall on the old hag's head, almost burying her. Meanwhile, Kuro believes that the red team won because the old hag killed Shira, but the furry says that they're yet to win as the green team's king is still alive. At the same time, Akira appears before Kuro, revealing himself as the king of the green team. Surprisingly, a bunch of people pop out from nowhere surrounding Akira. On the other hand, Hulk and Blondie join Yuri to take down Ugami, but he mocks them, saying they've largely underestimated his and Kuro's abilities. Immediately, his eyes begin to glow, and we know so much shit is about to go down. As he faces Kuro, Akira confirms what Ringo told him, that Kuro's ability enables him to enslave others, making them think they owe him a favor after playing the role of their savior. In return for his kindness, Kuro's slaves will sacrifice their lives to save him, meaning he essentially controls their abilities until they die. For the first attack, Akira is confronted by an electrifying marble, then he turns to discover that the beaner from the opposing team at the second stage is now one of Kuro's unfortunate slave. With his ability to control their magical abilities, he causes her marble to discharge electricity, then uses another dude's power to turn the giant marbles into tiny fragments of cubes, throwing them towards Akira. Boastfully, Kuro says that he doesn't give a shit about Akira's real ability, because his own ability is the most powerful there is. However, Akira tells him that despite all of that, Kuro would be dying to know what his real power is, just like he was hell-bent on knowing what Shira's power was the other day, because being unsure about his opponent's true abilities is going to be a weakness. Even when Akira reveals that he actually had a spy in their camp, Kuro seems to be unbothered by this finding and claims that he will eventually defeat Akira. Finally, Akira says that Kuro's arrogance will be his own end. After all the time wasted on this conversation, Kuro shocks Akira when he tells him that he knows he was tricking him into wasting time. However, he was only graciously indulging him and paused his attacks to grant Akira the time he needed. And if this made Akira thankful in his mind at any moment, it only subjects him to becoming one of Kuro's slaves, as he is now indebted to Kuro. After saying this, a chain suddenly appears on Akira's neck, similar to that on the rest of Kuro's slaves. Kuro then chains up his right leg, causing him to temporarily lose its function. He then sends his slaves to attack Akira, believing that he will have no choice but to use his true ability in defending himself. With a speed like that of the Flash, Akira teleports himself towards an exit in the forest. However, he is surprisingly caught by two men. Kuro boasts, saying that he knew Akira had the cannon ability in addition to teleportation magic, and that was why he had two guards waiting at the exit, so he only had to put Akira in a situation where he couldn't help but show his real abilities and have him restricted from coming in direct contact with him. Satisfied that he had now seen Akira's true powers, Kuro stabs him with a knife in his chest and boasts about his perfect master plan now that he had conquered Akira. But here is where the script completely flips on Kuro. Akira says that he is right where he wanted to be, which is directly in contact with Kuro. He manipulated Kuro into believing that his master plan worked by feeding things into his mind right from the start. He wasn't just buying time with his boring-ass speech earlier, he was directly planting ideas into Kuro's head, enabling him to use his enemy's imagination to develop an ability. Because Kuro believes that Akira possesses multiple abilities, it would be easy to trick him by mentioning Shira's name and his power at the battle, forcing Kuro to assume that Akira possesses Shira's powers as well. With this, Akira immediately uses Shira's negotiation magic to strike Kuro and blast him into a tree. Immediately, the chains fell off Kuro's slaves and they all celebrated their freedom. Akira reveals raw meat packs he had used as a cushion, thinking the battle is now over. Kuro is shocked that he could be outsmarted, so Akira explains the strategies he used in order to achieve this. He used his transformation magic to disguise as one of Kuro's team members, who turns out to be that guy that brought in some information from his spy in the green team. This created room for so many assumptions in Kuro's head, but it was all a part of Akira's plan to mess with his mind. Seeing that he had been played by a master, Kuro concedes defeat as he had initially underestimated Akira. He then hands over his interface to him, saying that even though he has won this round, the battle against Ugami will be bloody because he has an alternate personality that's demon-like. Ugami is already a demon, so I don't know just how evil his alternate person will be. Anyways, Kuro tells Akira to consider his friends as dead, so Akira locks in his interface and runs to meet them. Kuro's mind goes down memory lane to his childhood. His first meeting with Ugami was at an orphanage, and they shared dreams of building a kingdom of their own because they had no rights or freedom in that orphanage. The headmaster of the school was a scumbag who never really had their interest at heart because he was after financial gains. The wicked man would line them up and mock their unfortunate circumstances, and while the rest of the kids were stared down sadly, Ugami looked at him squarely with eyes full of rage, earning him some lashes from the man, while Kuro could only sob silently. The headmaster would insult Ugami and the others, saying they were nothing but insects. We're back to Ugami versus Hulk, Yuri, and the delinquent. So far, there isn't any clear winner, and it looks like the trio have an edge, but suddenly he gets up and his eyes turn white, streaming white tears. With one punch, Ugami twists the delinquent's arm, flinging his sword away, then he delivers another punch that throws the delinquent's body into a wall, breaking it and creating a significant opening in its structure. Ugami angrily expresses himself, saying that he is fed up with people's remarks about him. Whenever he feels a mixture of anger, pain, and sorrow, he transforms into the person he currently is, which others describe not to be human. He never finds the answers to the questions he's asking, which is who he really is in that state. And unfortunately, he terminates people who don't give him the answers to his question. As memories from his past flash before Ugami, he becomes enraged and increases in size, as he rushes towards Yuri with a kick that lands her on the floor. Hulk immediately activates his invincibility, which enables him to take some punches from Hulk, but the moment his 2 seconds elapse, Ugami sends him flying into the wall. Ugami is left with his memories once more, and he recalls taking multiple beatings alongside Kuro, while the headmaster mocked their ambition to build a kingdom for themselves someday. On one fateful day, the headmaster was bullying them as usual, so Kuro became filled with rage as his veins popped out. Then he grabbed the headmaster's ashtray and beat the shit out of him. Ugami was unstoppable as he lost all his senses that day, feeling no pain or any form of emotion. This was what got people to start saying that he wasn't human. With tears in his eyes, Ugami finishes narrating his story and Yuri answers him, saying that when she looks at his scars, she remembers herself and her younger sister who also faced their hardships. She hopes that none of them becomes anything like Ugami, and to answer his question, she says that no matter how terrible one's life turns out to be, that never cease to be human. Knowing that nothing in life is as random as they've forced her to believe, Yuri is determined to put an end to this fight, here and now. Both fighters jump mid-air, aiming their fists at each other. Sacrificing her broken left arm, Yuri delivers a powerful punch to Ugami's left arm, cracking his bone, thereby leveling the playing field and causing him to be handicapped in that arm. However, just as she attempts to strike him again, Ugami uses the same left arm to block her attack and reminds her that when he's in the monster state, he doesn't feel pain or anything else. He proves this by sending multiple punches towards her with both arms, showing no difficulty in swinging his injured arm. As he throws these punches towards her, Yuri uses her right arm to intercept them, causing Ugami to wonder just how strong this smaller person really is, despite the fact that she's bartered from head to toe. The next thing we see is some form of telepathy happening between the wounded inner kids and these two. Ugami's younger self asks the younger Yuri if she feels any pain, and she responds saying that she feels, then returns a question to him, asking if he truly doesn't feel pain or if he's just finding an excuse while he runs from the pain. Yuri delivers another punch to his left arm, and for the first time, Ugami flinches and admits that his arm hurts like hell. Yuri says she can't help him now because it's too late, but she sure as hell wants to put an end to his misery. With a high leap in the air, Yuri delivers a massive punch to his chest. Surprisingly, the moment she delivers the punch, Yuri feels powerless and has suddenly lost her ability, and the punch has no effect. This gives Ugami an opening, and he punches her into the opposite wall, rendering her unconscious. Unfortunately, the furry announces that the red team used 50 points to seal Yuri's abilities, rendering her powerless. It turns out that it was Kuro that locked her abilities. This scheming bastard didn't actually lose his abilities, but deliberately released the slaves from under his chokehold, to make it seem as though Akira had successfully made him lose his abilities. Kuro hid his actual interface in his jacket and distracted Akira by telling him his friends were in trouble, and the moment he left, Kuro signaled his other team members to lock their interfaces in the towers, thereby skyrocketing their points and securing enough to lock Yuri's powers. With this excellent execution, Kuro has outsmarted Akira this time around, and at least before he breathed his last, he proved to be a true grandmaster of strategic planning. As Yuri lays unconscious, Ugami moves to finish her with a final blow. But Akira uses some points, and the furry grants him a broadcast message, where he calls out to Ugami and tells him not to kill Yuri and the others, in exchange for a one-on-one battle with Akira, giving him a chance to defeat the king of the green team. However, Akira warns Ugami that if he kills his friends, he will retaliate by killing Kuro and disappearing from sight, and with Akira out of sight, there's no way Ugami can win the game. Ugami picks the phone and clarifies that as Kuro disabled Yuri's powers, it was a silent signal to Ugami, telling him that he may not make it. But since Ugami still had to defeat Akira, he agreed to the proposal and woke Yuri up to speak with Akira, proving to him that she was still alone alive. Ugami gives Akira a stern warning to make it on time if he doesn't want his friends to be unalived. Hearing Akira's broadcast, the members of the green team become worried, imagining the worst as Akira goes to face Ugami alone, but when Shira assures them that he trusts in Dude's ability to execute Ugami, they keep their fingers crossed for Akira, hoping for the best to come out of the situation. Speaking about Shira, I wonder how the heck that old man is still breathing even after the silly old hag blasted him away. Anyways, Akira finally shows up and the face-off begins. It's all clear to Ugami why Kuro's major concern has been Akira all this while, seeing that every other player has been defeated, yet he still stands on his feet. Ugami rages with anger as he plans to exact vengeance on Akira for killing Kuro, so he rushes with his first forwards heading straight for Akira's face, but Akira surprisingly dodges the blow and calls out on Yuri to activate their plan. He immediately lifts his fist to counter Ugami's strike, as he recalls the lessons he learnt while he was practicing with Yuri. Akira uses twice of Ugami's ability to strike him in the chest, meaning he multiplied his physical abilities 10 times, concentrating it into one great punch on Ugami's chest, which sends both men falling to the ground. For Ugami, he wonders if this really is the end, and accepts that he lived a rotten life, enough to deserve death. Unfortunately, he, Kuro, and their adoptive mother will never get the beautiful kingdom they longed for after living such a tough life filled with challenges. Shockingly, he gets up on his feet and admits that his body hurts like hell, but that Akira should deliver a message to Yuri, telling her to help herself and her younger sister to prevent them from turning out like he did. With this final note, Ugami falls on his face with a loud thud and dies. From nowhere, some creepy men in black appear out of the blues and begin to applaud Akira. The green team is announced as the winners, and they all break out in celebration. Akira walks up to Yuri and apologizes for abandoning her. She tells him it doesn't matter now, because he still came at the end. Appearing behind him is the annoying as hell furry who tells him that as the king of the quest, he has one last job to do, and in order to receive the reward for his team, he has to follow her to an unknown destination and accomplish a task. The furry says that he might even find the answers to his questions when he gets there. While she's talking, some men carry Yuri and the others on stretchers and assure Akira that there's nothing to be worried about, as he will see his friends once again when he's done fulfilling his role as the quest's king. The guru tells him to meet up with her at a certain tower once he's done preparing himself. Following their conversation, Akira goes to freshen up by a riverbank. There, he realizes that everything has worked well in order for his plan to work, which is to advance through every stage of the game until he gets to the core, dealing directly with those at the top, especially that b***ass furry. Just then, he is joined by Omoto, the weirdo who leads the blue team. He asks for the 200 points that he promised for his participation in the game and tells Akira that he observed almost everything during the game. This shocks Akira, who never saw even Omoto's shadow, but the guy continues revealing that he knows Akira and Yuri's abilities and finds them both impressive and intriguing. This guy is giving serial killer vibes, so Akira begins to hatch out a plan just in case this guy wants to take him out. He attempts to buy some time by drawing information out of him like he did with Yuri, but Omoto surprisingly tells him not to waste his time, like he's reading his mind. Akira then tells him to reveal his power, so Omoto stretches forth his hand and questions if Akira can dodge what is coming. Then he releases a powerful blast from the cannon that comes out of his hand, faster than his opponent can dodge it. Akira is blasted away and can barely lift himself from the ground. Then Omoto walks up to him and declares that he will be active in the game henceforth. Actually, he doesn't really give shit about fighting Akira, but he has a personal mission to kill the furry with his bare hands and would need Akira's help to do that. With that, he bids Akira goodbye until they meet in the 4th program, leaving Akira in an unconscious state. The next morning, Akira wakes up on his bed and realizes he just woke up from a very bad dream. He goes about his daily routine and prepares for school, but ditches at the dying minute. Deciding to get completely immersed in a game, Akira goes to an arcade and plays to his heart's content. At the hallway, he surprisingly meets with his sweetheart, Yuri. Ava hugs her tightly, saying they're going to play that game until the very end.